cannot just be an issue of politics in the continent. It's an issue that the continent must commit to, the dream that Raila had, from making sure that goods and services can move with robust infrastructure. Raila Odinga held a very strong view on why we must make sure that we silence the guns in the continent and ensure that the security, so that capital, goods, and people can be able to move in the continent and work and build a continent. Raila Odinga held the strong view that we need serious connectivity between Djibouti and Senegal, between Cape Town and Cairo, so that movement of people, goods, and services can be easy. Raila Odinga held the very strong view that the continent must have a single visa so that moving around the continent can be easy, so that a Kenyan who is born today without opportunities in the country called Kenya can as well move to Nigeria easily or move to Egypt easily and be able to find opportunity for themselves. So that somebody who is in Egypt, who cannot find their talent meeting the opportunities in Egypt, can move to Kenya and find opportunity that works for them. The dream of Raila Amolo Odinga was a continent where you are born does not define whether you die or you live. That dream must live with the people of Africa. That dream must live with the President of Africa. And Mr. Speaker, it is not a small dream. It is a dream for which some of us who went to Addis Ababa and saw what happened in Addis Ababa have picked that dream, we will continue with it. That one day, if not us, our children will see a united continent on the basis of economic excellence, on the basis of social justice, on the basis of politics that is good, that can advance the quality of life for the African people. And those dreams will not die, because Raila Amolo Odinga cast them on that stage called the continental stage. So it's not a matter of light politics of just being in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, we have seen in this continent young people being radicalized because of lack of economic opportunities, economic emptiness, turning young people to be Al-Shabaab militia, economic emptiness, turning young people to be Boko Haram militia. And we see that same kind of trend even in the continent today, that people who the country had no confidence in, when they were serving at highest level and they were impeached in these houses, Mr. Speaker, radicalizing even young people who are in this house. You find young people being made to sing Mau Mau wars, to dress like Mau Mau, to live themselves unkempt like Mau Mau, to start behaving like Mau Mau in a way that is radicalizing people who are elected to come to this house to be able to promote a concept of national unity, promote a dream for young people in this country, and they're being radicalized. Therefore, we must start thinking, Mr. Speaker, we must start thinking of how we can be able to make sure that economic opportunity and good policies for young people are made possible, so that radicalization of young people can stop, not only in Kenya but in the continent.
Eddie, Senator Wakoli, what's your point of order?
This is an honorable house of distinguished, high-profile leaders. My good brother, Honorable Eddie, has alluded that honorable members are dressed like, look like, hair like Mau Mau. Honorable Chair, it's important for my good friend to have responsibility of statement of facts, but coming out clearly and showing to us among members here or those without this place, who is it that looks like Mau Mau, hair like Mau Mau, so that the Honorable House is cleared of any misconduct. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Speaker.
Speaker, thank you. It seems like the senator, the good senator from Bungoma, is the only visitor from Jerusalem. I will send him some pictures of Mau Mau, people who fought, and then he can make his own judgment to look at people around who look like Mau Mau. But that said, Mr. Speaker, I must say also that we must also accept the negative that happened in this area, called the fighting for this seat. I want to encourage the majority leader that let's not be blind to the fact that foreign policy in this country is still not sober. And there are positions that you can take as a people that must be based on a foreign policy. Today, Mr. Speaker, whether you are a Democrat or you are a Republican in the American politics, when it comes to certain issues, America has clear foreign policy about them. And I don't think that we don't have a foreign policy that works. I think that we don't have a domestic policy that works. Because if you've got a strong domestic policy, Mr. Speaker, then you extrapolate your foreign policy from your domestic policy. What is our policy about our businesses, Mr. Speaker, for instance? That our businesses that are locally grown, homegrown, must be protected, must be taken care of. If that is our domestic policy, then that becomes the interface with which we interact with the external world. If our foreign policy here around our resources is strong, then that becomes the angle with which we relate with other countries. It is no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that the first round and the second round of Mr. Odinga's votes, he had consistently been ahead of Djibouti. And even if we don't know who voted because it was secret ballot, Mr. Speaker, we can say without a doubt that the shift started happening when the candidate for Madagascar dropped. And that shift, when it happened, we saw the Djibouti candidate gaining votes. Therefore, even if we are not mathematically sound, we can argue that there is high likelihood that the people who are voting for Madagascar shifted to Djibouti. And that is an indictment to our foreign policy. Why did they shift in that direction? It means that we haven't chosen as a people that on certain issues that are cross-cutting in the continent, whether it's the DRC war, whether it is the coup in the continent, a number of coups are in the continent, whether it is the issue around Israel, whether it's the issues around Commonwealth, all these issues, Mr. Speaker, must have one inclination. They must have an inclination towards a sober domestic policy that defines how then we engage the external world. It has to be that our nation must advance our national interests first when we are approaching the world, because that is the only way we survive as a country. And there are a number of areas that I think that these particular laws gives us an opportunity as a nation, gives the president an opportunity as our leader, gives the executive an opportunity as the cabinet, and gives us as a parliament opportunity to be brave, to be courageous, to be honest to ourselves, and interrogate the strength of our policy when it comes to our domestic inclination. Because if we don't interrogate that and bury our heads in the sand, Mr. Speaker, we will not be stronger tomorrow to face such wars. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I must say that Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, His Excellency Baba, is a person who has got zeal and zest to have a country that works. Even at instances that in the past regimes, Baba has supported some elements of people in governance, he has never taken any opportunity or discarded any opportunity to talk about the ills that are in government, to talk about the excesses that are in government, and to talk about bad things that are going on in the country. Including recently, when we were dealing with the issues of abductions, Baba Raila Amolo Odinga stood firm and fought abductions. And so are his soldiers who fought abductions. I can assure you that Raila Amolo Odinga does not need to be told where he's going to go. When he comes, after resting, he will give us direction on where he stands and where he goes, and therefore speculations must.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to join my colleagues in recording the thanks of the Senate on Kenya's attempt for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, AUC. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying that this is an important debate. a debate that was moved very well by the majority leader. But when debate began, then I wondered what happened between the time that he moved the motion and when the debate began. Because from one side of his mouth, he said that he would want to listen to opinion and views from members as to where we may have gone wrong and lost this seat. But on the other side of his mouth, he is insisting that we got it right. And so I wonder then, what are we going to be debating? The Speaker, having said that, I want to begin by thanking His Excellency the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for offering himself to vie for this continental seat. The Speaker, the decision to offer himself in itself, Mr. Speaker, was a true demonstration of courage and the spirit of Pan-Africanism. I liked and envy the energy of His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, that Mr. Speaker, he was able to move to every corner of the continent to convince presidents and heads of government to support his bid. That energy, Mr. Speaker, was really, really enviable. Mr. Speaker, the thing that really touched my heart was the fact that His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga kept his cool throughout this process. From the campaigns, even to the election date and the announcement of the results, our leader kept his cool. And I remember, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, there are people who think that they are closer to these leaders than some of us. I want to actually disabuse that notion. That, Mr. Speaker, before the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga went to Addis for the election, I spoke to him on Tuesday. And he was very clear in his mind what he was going to be doing. And to me, the words that ring to my mind to date is that if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. Whether I win or I lose, I'm a Kenyan, I am a Pan-Africanist. Mr. Speaker, that is courage beyond measure. And I want to congratulate him for having that courage to go for the seat. Mr. Speaker, when Raila Amolo Odinga went for this position, it was not about him, it was not about his party or his coalition, it was about Africa. And it was about carrying the Kenyan flag highly on the African scene. And the Speaker, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, did not disappoint. He carried the flag of our republic on the continental scene and did the best that he could. We want to congratulate him, Mr. Speaker. We also want to thank the presidents that voted for him, Mr. Speaker. Garnering 22 votes throughout, Mr. Speaker, I think 3 or 4 election cycles, Mr. Speaker, is not a simple feat. We want to thank the presidents that had faith in his leadership and voted for him. Mr. Speaker, there is another notion that I want to debunk from the floor of the Senate. The people who say that His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga does not accept defeat. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency himself conceded defeat on the floor of the Mandela House during this election. What I want to say to those people who say that Raila does not accept or concede defeat is that if he loses fairly, he will accept as he did in Addis Ababa. If he loses unfairly, he will contest that election. He has done that before, and for that courage, I also want to thank and congratulate him. Mr. Speaker, Kenya may have lost the election. We may not have brought the African seat home. But I want to say that to a very great extent, as a country, we won our space on the African continent. And let us continue to try as much as we can to be the pride of the region. Mr. Speaker, let me also congratulate the winner of the election, Mahmoud Yusuf, and wish him well. We shall live to fight this battle another day. The Speaker, having said that, the question that the majority leader posed, and I would have wished that he was here, on what it is that we could have done wrong, what could we have done better? Mr. Speaker, I think that's where the conversation should sit. Mr. Speaker, it is very, very unfortunate that our foreign policy does not seem to be serving our national and regional interests in the way that it should. The Speaker, I heard Senator Onyonka being put to task to substantiate the obvious. As a Speaker, I just want to urge our colleagues, all of us, to be truthful to facts and the reality of our time. The Speaker, when in December of 2023, the Congo River Alliance, bringing together opposition politicians from DRC and the March 23 grouping, the rebel group, in Nairobi, and they launched the operation in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, it is open to everyone, even school children, that on that account alone, Kinshasa withdrew their envoy from Kenya in protest. It's on the record. At the same time, Kinshasa even threatened to withdraw from the East African community and actually recalled their ambassador who was sitting in Tanzania. That's where the question that we should ask ourselves is, if we had handled this matter of M23 in Nairobi differently, would the results have been different? Those are the questions, Mr. Speaker, that we're asking ourselves. And as leaders, we cannot. Mr. Speaker, I listen to colleagues speak at times and I wonder, if His Excellency, the Right Honorable Engineer Raila Amolo Odinga, was speaking the language of some leaders who speak on the floor of this house when he was our age, where would he be today? Where would this country be today? The Speaker, Raila Amolo Odinga is not a person that is given to psychophancy or praise singing. He will say it as it is. And I'm very sure on the matter of the activities of M23 and the Congo River Alliance, their activities in Nairobi, I'm very sure, I don't even to ask him, I'm very sure he takes a very different view from the view taken by the executive, the National Executive of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, today, the quest for the AUC chairmanship is not the end of Kenya's quest for leadership in the region. There will be other positions that other Kenyans are suitable for. And I want, for the avoidance of doubt, to state that some of us consistently have believed in the leadership of Raila Amolo Odinga. We have campaigned for him. We have voted for him for many, many years. The people that speak here as though they know and support Raila Amolo Odinga more than other people have never voted for him even once. If anything, they have demonized him the most. Mr. Speaker, the engagement of Kenya and our neighbors is not ending with the end of the elections in Addis Ababa. Mr. Speaker, what we allowed to happen on our capital yesterday, Mr. Speaker, was not right. And we must tell this government as much. To allow the rapid support, their involvement in the crisis in Darfur, the killings, the torture, the maiming of people, Mr. Speaker. And we allow those groups to come to Nairobi and pretend to form a government of Sudan from Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. What do we expect? What do we expect, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have not had the last from the administration of General Buran, who is now running some form of administration from Port Said. These people have messed up their country. Our role as a neighbor should be to help these people come together and rebuild their country, not to take sides with one rebel group against the other rebel group. Mr. Speaker, that move, it is those kind of moves, Mr. Speaker, that we are saying, you know, the M23 move, Mr. Speaker, let's just face it. On account of the Congo River Alliance being formed in Nairobi, and the fighting now in eastern DRC, the takeover of towns, South Africa has lost many soldiers. Tanzania has lost many soldiers. Let us just ask ourselves as human beings. The president of South Africa, the president of Tanzania, the president of DRC Congo, when they went to cast the ballot, in that reality, where were they likely to cast their ballot? Mr. Speaker, these are the questions that we should ask ourselves. And stop being sycophantic or emotional about things that we can see as leaders are not going the right direction. Mr. Speaker, I want to advise. And I keep saying that I am maybe the least qualified to advise the National Executive. Mr. Speaker, this country belongs to all of us. Those who support the current administration and those who don't. We all belong to this country. And Mr. Speaker, the presidency of this country is not coming to an end with the end of the term of office of President William Ruto. Beyond him, there will be presidents. Before him, there were presidents. The thing that we must do, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure that while he sits in office, we have a stable country. A country with a very robust and good foreign policy that protects the national interest, but also takes care of the regional interest and the global interest. I like what Senator Eddie said. The Speaker, being at the continental scene is not just about the continent. It's about our engagement with the outside world. It's about a continental economic bloc. The Speaker, as a country, as Kenya, we must make sure that we play a rightful role in that conglomeration, Mr. Speaker. We cannot be a country that is pushed to the periphery on matters foreign policy, while in pursuit of interests that could be very, very personal. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I want to reiterate that I heard Senator Yake make a very loose comment about the people that have stood with His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga when he fought for the constitution, democracy. The Speaker, I don't agree with Senator Chariot a lot, Senator Chergei a lot. On this one, I agree with him. I want to ask him to go and check his records and tell this country who those leaders he's talking about are. Those leaders who never believed in the provisions of this constitution that Raila Amolo Odinga pushed for. Those leaders whose business, the primary business, was to demonize Raila Amolo Odinga and what he stood for then. Where I come from, Mr. Speaker, as a Christian, new converts have a lot of zeal. People who convert to the faith, they have a lot of zeal. And they believe that maybe they have gotten saved today and tomorrow they are going to heaven. So they have a lot of zeal. Mr. Speaker, those of us who are old in that religion, our work is to just tamper the zeal and tell them to cool it down. The world will come to an end. Jesus Christ will come back. But it will happen at the fullness of his timing, not at our timing. The new converts in the political scene in Kenya, I want to tamper their zeal. Let them move slowly, Mr. Speaker. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator David Wakoli Wafula.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Nashukuru sana kwa nafasi hii. Naona ndugu zangu upande wa walio wachache kwa leo wanatabasamu Mheshimiwa Spika kwa sababu ya kongole na sifa ambazo tunamiminia Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga kama mpeperushaji bendera katika Afrika kuwakilisha nchi ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, mgala muwe na haki mpe. Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga amekuwa kielelezo cha ustahimili wa demokrasia katika nchi ya Kenya. Amedhihirisha kujitolea muhanga kutetea haki ya mnyonge wa nchi ya Kenya, kutuliza mawimbi ya kisiasa katika nchi ya Kenya, na vile vile kunyosha mkono wa heri njema kwa wapinzani wake wa kisiasa, tukitangulia na Mheshimiwa Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, Mwai Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta na sasa Mheshimiwa William Ruto. Mheshimiwa Spika, hivi ni vielelezo ama sifa za viongozi